All right, welcome everybody. This is We Are the Game. I'm Michael, and that's Luke, and we are going to talk about the Arizona Cardinals' rather tumultuous season and their current loss to the Bengals this last week, in what kind of looked like or appeared like Cincinnati's kind of control of the game, especially on offense, at least through three quarters. But maybe it wasn't so cut and dried as that. What's your kind of take on how the game went? Was it really that in control by the Bengals, or was it closer at moments? And just the Cardinals kind of once again ended up on the wrong side of these kind of 50-50 type plays.
It really felt like they were in control. There's a trend that's broken out again in the more recent games, which is we've done well enough early in a game. And like we'll put together a solid first 15 and then we'll get a junk touchdown at the end of a game. Now this wasn't in our first 15. This was at toward the end of the first half, but we are not putting together consistent drives that are semi off script. So there is some of that. It is a little bit discouraging, even amongst normally an already discouraging season, that now our offense can't even produce against a terrible defense that they have been all year. Like, I don't think this is some like, what? The Cincinnati Bengals have a bad offense, bad defense. That's crazy. Like they're right up there with, well, the Cardinals and the Cowboys, I believe, for how their defenses have been producing or, performing this year. So only being able to put up 14 points of them, even if it was just junk yards and junk points, is discouraging. But we're almost done. We're almost there. There are individual players who are doing some things here and there that I think that they're putting some good tape on. And one other thing to really consider in all this is like it would be shocking if a team in this position that's looking at like, hey, I may not be on this team next year, we may not have the same coach next year and all that, if you weren't quite mentally producing at 100%, it's not only could I not blame you, I just kind of expected there was a whole lot of eyes just now. And so it's got to be tough to come out there and 100% Buda Baker this thing every single play. So honestly, I get it and I respect it. You're still a really good football player, but you had some bursts of exceptional out there. So, Calais Campbell, old man Calais, 39 years old, got himself another sack to put himself at 6.5 on the season, which for a tackle is pretty darn solid. Yeah. So he's still producing well. Good for him. You had Denzel Burke is one of the guys I just kind of wanted to shout out here a little bit. Was one of the corners, rookie. We took him in the 5th round, I believe. He did have one play where they had an offensive lineman line up at wide receiver. This is not one where they had him at the edge and he split out after he blocks him on a chip and run kind of thing. This was like he lined up out at the edge as a wide receiver and he got like 20 yards because Burke kind of went high on him. But it was one of those, like, I don't care how you guard the offensive lineman on the fluke play. I care how you do against Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Yeah. He actually did fairly well. And you see Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are like, they had some yards and whatnot. I was like, yeah, they're always going to have yards. You're not trying to stop LeBron James. You're just trying to slow him down a little bit. And he did that. And for a 5th round rookie, I'm pretty impressed with how he did. He's played a lot of snaps this year. He's got 3 interceptions. I'm pretty impressed by Denzel Burke. And I just wanted to give him a little bit of credit for the season in general, but this game as well. I mean, there is no harder wide receiver duo in the NFL than the Cincinnati Bengals with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Like, you guys with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens are pretty darn close. You could even say you're neck and neck, but It doesn't get any worse. So congrats to him on a good game. He'll probably get some more play time next year, I would imagine. So we'll see. But it's not all doom and gloom. I just wanted to shout out a positive thing before we get into the rest of the bad.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. It was good. I know we've talked so many times this season about just how, games where the Cardinals could not find any penetration on the offensive line to get to quarterbacks at all. Legendarily, the Bengals offensive line is not an upper echelon offensive line. So this is a kind of game where you want to see something. You want to see you getting some pressure on Joe Burrow. Came out with 3 sacks. You mentioned Calais there. It's like there were some things that went strategically right One of the differences, of course, between kind of, I think, in general, the way these two teams play, like Jacoby Brissett versus Joe Burrow, which is a harsh comparison in general, but it's just how much Joe Burrow spreads the ball around, right? It's like, hey, it looks like pretty good coverage on Jamar Chase today. No problem. I'll go to T. Higgins. Okay, great. They're going to cover him. I'll just keep moving, right? It's just there's another pass to somewhere else, and he can spread the ball all over. Whereas kind of on the Cardinals offense, most of the completions and attempts were kind of centered and focused, like you were saying, on Trey and Michael Wilson. I think that there's plenty of positives on the Arizona side of that. On the offense, like getting known quantities out of known people. But yeah, it's like, okay, where's the adjustment on that? It does kind of have that feel of hey, we're just there's not a lot of morale in this gameplay. Yeah. I think the time of possession, I think we were talking about just, obviously Arizona got down pretty big in the first half, and then you just never had the ball again. Yeah. It's like, you were talking about how many punts they had, but I think that is 40 and a half minutes or something like that the Bengals had the ball in this. It's hard to do too much more when you never see the football.
So. Yeah, it is. And they, their run game is an underrated element of their game just because of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I think people know the name. Wow, just lost his name. Chase.
Oh, yeah. Brown. Chase Brown. Yeah.
I was going to say Chase Young, and I was like, that's wrong. But yeah, people know Chase Brown now, but I don't know that they fully appreciate him quite yet. And it's still kind of hard to tell if Chase Brown is great because he's great, or is he great because every defense is terrified of their receiving core? So we'll see over time, but he has pretty consistently put together some great games. And this was another one where it was just very consistent, kept giving them first downs. He's, got him 2 touchdowns, I believe. So yeah, he's a really solid game from them. And they didn't really have any flaws in their game, especially on offense. Like they frequently get games where they're powerful on offense and they just put together a lot of points and such. But this was one of them where they didn't make any mistakes. They didn't turn the ball over. There wasn't like an accidental fumble from a freaky tackle or anything like that. This was a very clean game. And if this is the kind of game where they show why teams are scared to play them in the playoffs. Like even if they had snuck in at like 8-9 or 9-8, that weird scenario had happened, which looks like in AFC North it could have if they had a couple more wins. No one wants to play this team because their offense can drop 40 on anyone.
Yeah,
not going to be an issue this year, but any year, assuming Joe Burrow doesn't leave because he's ticked off at them, they're always going to be a bit scary in that department. So. And I don't really have any shame in losing to the Bengals per se. Like they are a good team with a bad defense, but it's just not being able to put together any offense was the discouraging thing for this week.
Yeah, well, and we talked earlier in the week about how it's like the first half of the season, your defense, in particular in the red zone, was in the top tier of defenses. And there's just kind of been a slow fall off as the season progressed. And you already outlined it. I mean, it's hard to be Buda Baker and do what he does with nowhere to go, right? Like that's a lot of punishment to put onto your body with like, hey, where are we getting at the end of this? And so I think that's a strain to work through, and it'll be an interesting next game, just as. Fate has turned out the way that this last game is lining up, that the Rams are probably going to have to show up and actually play. It'd be interesting to see how that goes. We'll get into that more during the week. Do you have any last thoughts on this one before we tie it off?
No, I'm just ready to just get out, just run. So ultimately this moved us up to 5 for like a little update on the draft position for the Cardinals, but that's about it. The Bengals aren't in the same kind of boat where they need to be super high in the draft. If anything, for the team, they kind of need to prove that they could be a contender next year if they have their quarterback. So in a lot of ways, as far as draft is concerned, this kind of rolled out the way both teams would probably like. We moved up. They proved that they could be a good team next year if they do the right things. So we'll see if we move up any higher for the rest of the season.
It'll be interesting to see. We'll get into that more later this week. But for today, thank you everybody for joining. We always love having you with us. If you wouldn't mind, drop us a like or subscribe. Join us in the comments. Tell us your thoughts. Cry with us a little bit on the Cardinals' position in this season, or talk about the draft. We're up for all of it. But yeah, I hope to catch you there. Outside of that, everybody have a great day.